there were many uncertainties about America. Stories had come back about failed colonies, violent American natives, and no sources for food and water. It probably felt like they were moving to another planet, and travel in primitive wooden ships was both unpleasant and hazardous. But the Pilgrims were motivated to start something new, their determination stemming from their worldview and their belief in the role of the Christian on earth, and in particular the words of Jesus from what today is considered the most famous sermon ever preached, the Sermon on the Mount. He said, "Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." The Matthew 5:14 passage is crucial in helping us understand the motivations of these Mayflower Pilgrims and others that followed. The very first settlers of Massachusetts and those who came after them really thought that they were fulfilling that ideal, and that the new colonies that they would establish in Virginia and Massachusetts and elsewhere in New England would serve as models for a more holy, more perfect civilization. They were not able to fully realize that in England, nor here in Leiden, Holland. Maybe they would in the New World. So, with a clear and undeniable call to America, two pilgrims were sent to England to solicit a land patent that would give them the legal right to create a settlement. With the patent secured in June of 1619, the Pilgrims finally had the green light to go. The younger and stronger members, led by William Brewster, would make the initial voyage and establish the first settlement. All they needed now was a boat. The ship they obtained, along with a hired crew, was called the Speedwell, but a second larger ship was also leased for transport and exploration services. This was the Mayflower. In July 1620, the Speedwell, filled with the Leiden colonists, departed from the nearby port of Delfshaven. The parting from the rest of the congregation was hopeful but heartrending. The Bradfords even made the agonizing decision to leave their own 3-year-old son, John, behind. William Bradford had grown up an orphan. His son would now have the same fate. Pastor Robinson fell to his knees on the deck of the Speedwell, as did the others. It was recorded that, with watery cheeks, commended them most fervent prayers to the Lord and His blessing. The scene was described as such love as indeed is seldom found on earth. The rising tide carried the ship out of port, and soon they met up with the Mayflower, along with some additional colonists who were not Christian separatists and were going to America primarily for financial opportunity. This caused grave concern among some of the separatists because they would be starting a new colony with people that didn't share their values. The challenges they would face, however, began long before they reached the New World. Soon after it departed, the Speedwell began taking on water, so both ships were diverted back to England. There, the Speedwell was inspected for leaks and sealed, but a second attempt to depart also failed, bringing them only as far as Plymouth, England. It was decided there that the Speedwell was unreliable and was promptly sold. It would later be learned that crew members had deliberately sabotaged the Speedwell, allowing them to abandon their year-long commitments and turn a quick profit by buying the ship at a discount and then repairing it. Some people would now have to be left behind. Of the 120 combined passengers, 102 were chosen to transfer over to the Mayflower for the transatlantic voyage. That was, to say the least, eventful. Underway, they were met with strong winds and storms. One of these caused a main beam to crack. Using a great iron screw, probably a piece of house construction equipment, they repaired the ship sufficiently to continue. Also along the way, a passenger named John Howland was washed overboard in a storm, but caught a rope and was miraculously rescued. Howland would go on to have 10 children. In fact, he's an ancestor of the George Bush family, and First Lady Mrs. Theodore Roosevelt. Another crew member and one passenger died before they reached land, and a baby boy was born at sea, who was given the name Oceanus. Like so many Pilgrim children, Oceanus Hopkins would have a short life. He died in America, a mere lad of 7.